Ash, so much. First, let me say I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be amongst all these amazing women, the panelists, as well as the attendees. And let me say this. I personally know in my body language when something is good, when I go from sitting real petite to sitting like a straight dude. So I just been bent over like all into it today. So this has been so fulfilling and so needed. So I just want to thank you guys for everything. But let me say this. For the next few minutes, you're going to be listening to an introvert, yet I'm on a public speaking platform. You're going to be listening to someone who is anti-social media, yet I have a few thriving social media platforms. You're going to be listening to a newly published author, yet until this day right now, I get nervous that I'm an author and shaking just to say that. And I say all of this because we need to stop confusing our humility with sharing our testimony. I say that because I'm still going through that. Sometimes, and as Christians, it's the turn the other cheek, it's this, is that. And it is a very fine line between bragging and then bragging on the Lord, showing others what he's brought you through. You're going to have haters that say, oh, you're bragging or you're doing the most. Let haters do what they do. That's their jobs, to be haters. But I need you guys to know to start using your platform. It does not have to be social media. It could be your work. It could be your family. It could be anything. It could be your neighborhood. Start sharing what God has done for you, what he has done financially, what he has done materialistic wise, emotionally, spiritually, whatever that may be, and quit using I'm humble, I'm meek, I'm mild as a reason to keep somebody else from getting a breakthrough. Your blessing is somebody else's encouragement. Your story is somebody else's stepping stone. So I don't know who needs to hear that right now, or I could just be preaching to myself, but I just needed to get that out there in the open right off the top. So my name is Erica Smith, and I am a wife. I'm a wife. It'll be 16 years marriage next month. I'm a mother of 2 boys, and believe it or not, I am an e-learning designer and presenter for corporate America. However, I don't have a presentation today. And as a backstory, so we all ladies, I can share. So last week, my period hit me real tough and hard. And I used to always think I was wired real weird because I'll be 37 in September. And ever since I hit puberty at 14, I usually get energy on my periods. I usually lose weight on my periods. But last year, I don't know if it was the pandemic with depression, everything else, but my period changed up on me. It could be age, I don't know. But it changed up on me, and now my periods knocked me down. So all last week, I was planning on doing a presentation and preparing and everything, but I was out. I was just out, barely able to post to social media, but I knew I needed to be present. And so after I got done with my period, my son, he's 11, and my youngest son and I both got sinus infection. I'm talking about nauseated, headache, just down for the count. This was literally all last week. Up into Ashley, I was so close to texting you 2 days ago saying, girl, I ain't gonna be able to do it. But, I stuck in there, I prayed, and, just asked the Lord to heal me and everything, and he has. But I go to say that because over those few days, here's where my recovering perfectionist was coming out. Again, recovering. You're not prepared. What are you going to talk about? Whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then God had to remind me from what I learned in therapy that that's a trauma response. So oftentimes we have perfectionists and people that control freaks. And sometimes you may not know that's a trauma response. And God told me, girl, chill out. Do you share what I have brought you through, share about your book? And I had to find the fine line between, I don't want to promote my book. I want to promote Jesus and my story. And so I also was like, but Lord, what am I going to do? And just late last night, he was just like, do you? I've equipped you. So just do you. So I just go out to say that is that, if you are struggling with anything or anything, especially being a perfectionist, get some therapy if you need to be, because oftentimes it could be a trauma response. And for me, my trauma response was trying to please a parent that was unpleasable, trying to keep friends that were not meant to be friends, trying to keep jobs and bosses happy when you can't control a lot of these things. And sometimes we stay trying to be careful about what we do, what we say, how we dress, what we look, and that's called a trauma response often. So it's very important to get to the nitty gritty of why you move and how you move and what you say, what you do. So we're gonna leave that there. So with that being said, guys, I brought notes because I'm not prepared like I'd like to be. So what my main basis here today is to get you guys to be comfortable with getting uncomfortable. And I am preaching to the choir. Before I even begin speaking, my heart is pounding. Before I begin speaking, I'm like, Lord, what am I doing here? And I do this all the time, but I also know that's my calling. Oftentimes when it's something that you can't shake, that makes you nervous, yet makes you excited, and you're passionate about it, that's your calling, sis. And let me say that again. Oftentimes it's something that makes you excited, you can't shake it, it makes you nervous, and you need Jesus. You can't do it in your own strength. And that's the biggest thing. You cannot do it in your own strength. That's your calling. And so I say that because a lot of times we're sitting here depressed at jobs, and it ain't necessarily that you're in the wrong job. It's that you're not walking in your calling. You could be walking in your calling on a job that you may not necessarily like, but are you encouraging someone? For an example, I'm an educator, a corporate educator. And for years, I went back and forth with, should I go into the school system or should I go into corporate? Because I enjoy business. I enjoy everything about business. However, I enjoy everything about helping people's light bulbs go off, from little babies to grown old folks. I don't care who you are. I want to teach you. And so I struggled for years in a place of unhappiness and in a place of unfulfillment, because I was looking at the coins and not looking at my calling and getting them two C's mixed up. And so, I don't want to go too deep in the book, then y'all ain't gonna want to look into the book. So I'm trying to be careful about what I share here. But really, I just want to really encourage anybody out there that God has placed something on your heart. You know that you have the gifts and the skills and the resources. However, you're not using them. That's where a lot of your depression could stem from. And so I just, want to just encourage that. So moving on to my next written note. So I just want to share a little bit about my book, because I know that the basis of Dr. Ashley inviting us is there's a lot of authors on here, coaches and different things like that, and entrepreneurs. So I just want to share a little bit of my journey on writing this book and how I got to that point. So as Ashley stated, my book is called Manipulate Me Not, and it actually has a twist to the term manipulation. A lot of times we can get into the victim mindset real easy. We can think, oh, in that relationship, he manipulated me, my parents manipulated me. But have we ever taken the time to look at what we're doing to ourselves? Self-manipulation, the doubts that we consistently feed ourselves. As the last young lady, Tara, I hope I'm saying your name right, as she mentioned about the thoughts that we have. And those thoughts that we breathe, that we give birth to and continuously, we are also telling ourselves that we can't do, what we can't achieve, and what we can't have. And we also look at our past and our failures and who ain't for us and who ain't with us and who ain't going with us, to keep us in a place of complacency, to keep us in a place of depression, to keep us in a place of regression as to where God has so much more for us. So in my book, I share, it's kind of a memoir as well as a inspirational, because I'm sharing pieces of my life as well as how I got to different areas. But I go this to say is that it's important, as I mentioned earlier, about not confusing humility with your testimony, because I struggle with that a lot. I even struggle with that today. As far as what I post on social media, I don't want to come off as a certain way. But again, going back to my good old therapy days, that's me thinking too much about what y'all gonna think. I don't need to think about what y'all gonna think. I need to think about what the good Lord has told me. And sometimes he'll put me in check. And that's when I need to figure out what I'm putting out there to the world. But I go there to say, because I've had a challenging life. It hasn't been the worst. However, it has been important for me to share my story, because I truly don't look like what I've been through. And how I carry myself, I truly don't carry myself like what I've been through. And what I have today, whether it's happiness in a marriage, financial freedom, all these things, I don't carry myself, I don't carry those things as though you need to know what I got and what I do and what I've been through. I'll allow the light of God internally in me to show that. And God had to smack me a few times and say, well, how dare you be ashamed of what I've brought you through? How dare you keep what the blessings I've given to you, keep those from other people? And so I say that because if there's somebody right now that wants to start a blog, write a book, a YouTube channel, and you worried about what who gonna say and they gonna say, or even yourself, stop it. Stop it right now, because it's nothing like being on the last end of this earth and you knowing you didn't do what you was called to do. And our callings change. Let's keep that real. Sometimes we don't always know, but we have an inkling. We know what our gifts deep inside are. And so you want to make sure that you're leaning on God's strength, because I'll tell you, most people that are on public platforms, most of them are introverts, believe it or not. Most of them get nervous than anything, but it's that God, it's that fire, it's that Holy Ghost that comes in and does the job, that makes you look real shiny, like a nice pearl, like the diamond. But it ain't you, it's the Spirit working within you. So don't worry about being polished right now. You may not never be fully polished, but that's where the Holy refining Spirit and fire comes into. So with that being said, at 19 years old, God put on my heart, I don't know if he put it on my heart or whatever, so I ain't gonna even put it on God. But at 19, I said, I want to be the Black Joyce Myers. And I said, why? You don't even like talking in a room. I'm usually the last person to say something. I don't like empty conversations. And, I was like, well, why is that something, Lord, you want me to do? And also at 19, he put on my heart to write a book. And now initially my book was going to be about children and young adults breaking free from toxicity in their families. A lot of times we deal with family because they're family, and we end up depressed, on drugs, suicidal, unhappy because of the bloodline. And nowhere in the Bible does God say you got to deal with your mom and daddy because that's your mom and daddy. God says love everyone. He didn't tell you to deal with everyone. And oftentimes we get those things confused. And so I was passionate at 19 to tell any child or even any adult that's struggling, because there's so many people who's got divorces because of their families. It ain't because of the marriage, it's because everybody in their ear. And I wanted to write a book to just let children know and young adults struggling, hey, you don't have to be what you came from. And it's okay. There's such a blessing in being a Black sheep because you're standing out, baby. And, as time progressed, of course, I just released my book last year, but as times progressed, God's changed my heart and he softened my heart. Because if I had wrote that book at that time, it would have been with the wrong intentions. It would have been with the wrong spirit. And I didn't experience enough in life for God to really put me on the platform that he needed to put me on. So I say to go say that too, because I say that also because you guys may have something that God has put on your heart and you're beating yourself up because you ain't done it yet. Don't do that. It may not be the timing to do that yet, but yet keep on for that vision, keep on for that promise, and just make sure you're not letting that go. So just make sure you're, in due time, there's a season for everything. So he'll reveal it to you when necessary. But anyway, I went ahead last year and released my book. And mind you, this book has been a collection of experiences and things I kept in my little iPhone for 5 years, just notes and just different things and scriptures and just different things. And it was tough writing this book because everybody that's in this book is still alive. Okay, so it takes a whole different kind of boldness to talk about some family toxicity when these people still living. And I thought, and I still know that I did it with the right intentions, the right heart, hoping to help them and others. And y'all, when I tell y'all, when I released this book, I had to go into hiding for 2 weeks on social media. Because my very own family, down to my mother, was trying to destroy my name or anything. The one sister I have literally bullied me on social media, even though she's experienced far worse than me, far worse than me growing up. She bullied me. I went into a depression. I closed all my social media accounts. The ones that stayed up, I put them on private. And God pretty much had to smack me and said, how dare you again? How dare you again allow what the world is trying to tell you, keep it for what I told you? And so what I mean by that is, when God has called you to do something, everything is not going to be easy, and everybody's not going to be your cheerleader. But however, after God told me that, I opened everything back up on social media. You know, and it's funny because I had people in my DMs already, because my book is in an e-learning format. And when I opened up my social media, there were people DMing me how much their story was identical to mine, or how they could not believe the stuff that I went through, and how tasteful that I wrote this book. And I go to say all of this is that whatever God has called you guys to do and you think is going to offend somebody, that ain't none of your business. You're about God's business. And so whether that is friendships, a marriage, if it's for your healing, you need to go get it. And if it's for something bigger, somebody bigger, it's for a bigger platform. Because what I've realized is what I've been through and what I'm currently going through, it ain't about E. And that's what makes it even more refreshing. It gives me even more strength, because God's given me a job. And I want to make sure that when I leave this earth, whether it's tomorrow or in 50 years, I've done my job. And when he sees me, he can say, well done, you did your job. So I go all to say all of this is that get uncomfortable, whatever that is. If you're on your job and you're afraid to speak up, you got a great idea, speak up. Okay. If you are afraid to step out and apply for a job that you know you are qualified for, but you're afraid because of the corporate politics or whatever politics, stop it. Stop it right now, because you are limiting the big God you serve. And oftentimes our thoughts keep us bound. His power, our thoughts keep him bound. He says, go boldly to the throne. And that's why I kind of go back to, don't confuse your humility with your testimony. Be bold about what he's brought you through. Be bold about what he's provided for you, so you can give somebody else that boldness to say, oh yeah, I'm gonna go get it. If he did it, if she did it, he'll surely do it for me. So, you know, I just want to make sure that you guys get that fire up under your tails. Whatever it is, you ain't got to go write a book tomorrow or start a blog today or lead a marriage, whatever it is, that because sometimes it's stuff that God needs you to remove and leave also to begin the next step. There's some people that's in abusive situations. You know, sometimes he wants you to get that courage to leave. He wants you to get that courage to get that therapy. He wants you to get that courage to quit that job that is causing you depression, that is causing you anxiety, that you are not being valued in. If he gave you one job, he'll give you another. If he gave you one husband, but he won't work nothing, he'll give you another. And even if he don't give you a husband, maybe he's got another something else for you. You know, Dr. Ashley has a book about singleness and how we can be empowered in those areas. So God doesn't always give everybody the same idea or vision or calling. But once you grab hold of what he's called for you, there ain't nothing else nobody else can say or do. It's for you. So I think that's it. Like I said, I got all my notes all around here. Oh, here's my little exit note. Here we go, y'all. My exit note. So my exit note is, again, if it makes you nervous, yet it makes you passionate. But you cannot do it in your own strength, not in your own finances, not in your own resources, not in your own swag or whatever personal savviness, whatever you got, that's your calling. Do it, use it, one day at a time, one positive thought at a time, because them negative thoughts gonna come. I ain't gonna lie, I was in the bed the other day like, Lord, why did I agree to do this with Ashley? Because I'm feeling a hot mess. But every time I step and open my mouth, and every time that God puts the fire on me, I know, Lord, this ain't nothing but you. And that's when it's your calling, that's what will happen. Because he don't need your strength. That's the thing you need to realize. So moving your calling, sisters. Don't beat yourself up if you don't know it yet. And if you just spend enough time in his presence, you'll realize you already knew it. And sometimes you got to live enough and experience enough to see you had one calling 1 year, it may be different the next. But that's all I have. So thank you for your time. And yeah, thank you for your time.